I'm here with Craig Forrest. Hello, Craig.
Hi, Andy. Good to see you. Saw you about 10 days ago, and here we see each other by extension in a digital world.
I know, and this is the thing. I prefer the physical connection, but I very much appreciate being able to connect digitally because, of course, we met at the Christians in Media conference at
Hmm.
Sky Group not that long ago.
Right. A couple of Fridays ago. That was fun. Little hard to get out to Sky Studio. Big campus, big campus. You could definitely get lost there, or go down and go to the wrong building. But we had a wonderful Friday, and I enjoyed meeting you. I had a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes, during one of the breaks between sessions where you interviewed me along with your cracking crew, and we decided to meet up in the future. So here we are.
Yes, I love those kind of impromptu. Who we're going to meet? We've done some live broadcasts where it's all nicely scheduled out. We know who we're going to meet. Those are great because I can kind of
Yeah,
look forward to seeing people. I
right.
equally love, for very different reasons. I have no clue who I'm going to meet. Who are you? What do you do? I love those because it's
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. And everybody has a different story, and especially somebody you haven't met is like a fresh page of their life, and you get to talk about yourself as well. But I love listening to people and stories, and especially if they're unique, inspiring, funny, and a great conversation.
I love stories, which is why I love doing these. I say this so many times and I never apologize for repeating it. I love stories because you can disagree with the story, but you can't deny it because it's somebody's story. And that right there is why I absolutely adore giving people the opportunity to share their story of their life.
Yeah, yeah. I've as we talked just very briefly, I have been unknown for 30 years because all I did was just TV director, went across the world, and the more international I did, Andy, the more I got called for that. That became my specialite. Then nobody wanted me to shoot in Denver. I go, I can shoot in Denver. They wanted me to shoot in Dakar. I said, well, I'll do Dakar. So I have been to Dakar 4 times now. So go figure. Uh, so uh, uh, a great time had by all. But when I came back to Dakar 20 some years later, oh my goodness, it was 5, 6, 7 times bigger than I remembered it because of immigration and people moving around. So it was only in the last 20 years with teaching and speaking, as I do 90 some percent of that overseas, that I've become a little bit more well known. I've spent so much time, Andy, behind the camera and behind the microphone that it's kind of a treat to be in front. I know how to do that. I've watched hundreds of people do it. I think I can do it too.
I love that. Let's just go there a little bit because we want to delve into your life
Sure.
and where faith enters into all of that, and even why perhaps why we met at Christians in Media. But what was your work? How did you find yourself for the first time standing behind the camera, not in front of it, actually saying, "Okay, let's go"?
Yeah. It's a shameless plug and propaganda. I've just written a book called Night Train to Cairo, Night Train to Cairo. You can find it on Amazon and amazon.co.uk. There's a Kindle version, and in iBookstore for Apple, there is a freshly created iBook version as well. And I started right out of college. I was interested in TV. I'd won an award earlier in my high school years when I was 16 in sports writing, and I didn't know I had the gift of writing. I had no clue. 0 out of 100, 1 out of 100 did I know that I could write. And I won a prestigious award for sports writing, number one in my county. And kind of put that aside, did a little TV internship. But right out of Bethany Bible College, which later became Bethany University in California, a friend of mine on staff at the college, Jim Pickens, said, "Hey, you like TV? I know somebody in TV. Let me make a call for you." And he made a call to what was then PTL Television Network in Charlotte, North Carolina, head of production, VP of production, guy named Roger. And Jim said, "Hey, we got this guy. I think you would really like him. can he be a free intern? Sure. And so 3 weeks after graduation, Andy, I was on a plane. I got to Charlotte. I arrived at work as an intern on a Monday, and on Tuesday, the same Roger walked into the office and says, I need a telethon writer. Would you like a job? And I tell everybody in their 20s, no, almost no matter what, say yes. Just say yes. And I figured, okay, yesterday I was unpaid, and today I get paid. I will take the paycheck every other Friday or the 15th and the 1st. I will take it, yes. Then I won't just be eating hot dogs, franks, and beans and all that kind of stuff. And that's what started with me. And a few jobs later, I worked for World Vision in California, and they flew me all over the world, Andy, to do shoots. And I was about maybe 27, 28 by then, had some experience under my belt. I had 6 or 7 years experience between PTL and Trinity Broadcasting Network, which is there's a version of that in the UK as well. And they sent me, World Vision sent me all over the world for 4 years. India, Kenya, England, Holland, Mexico, Senegal. That was my first time to Dakar. And I write about that in my book, my first time touching down in Africa. And that's what gave me the experience, Andy. And there was no book for it that I know of. So I wrote a book called Digital, it's been a while, Commando Tactics for Digital Filmmakers. Commando Tactics for Digital Filmmakers. How to shoot projects all over the world, what you need to look for. And it's a blend of advice and my writing, and also some really good practical stories of what I learned, good, bad, and ugly, in that book. And that's also available as an ebook. Anyway, and then when I was 30, I went on my own. I had a 6-video contract with a church group. They said, we want you to go all over the world and tell our churches what all these other religions are about, the unsaved, the unevangelized. I went to 32 countries in 4 years. 32. Who does that? And God had set me up at World Vision to have the practical experience, good stuff and mistakes, to do the next project. And I started my own company. And again, the more international I did, the more I got called for that. So that's how I got behind the camera. And I had absolutely great cameramen. I had 4 of them over those 4 years: Sergio, Randy, Jimmy, and Steve. And we went to Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia, India, not too much, a little bit of Central America. And so we saw the world, and we came back with National Geographic level footage, Andy. In fact, one of the shows, some of the footage, I was asked to repurpose it for a secular show called World of Wonder back there. And so I directed for Discovery Channel. And once I directed for Discovery Channel, I'm about maybe 34, 35 years of age at the time. Once I did that, then I had a calling card with all of these production companies that wanted great footage and stories shot across the world. It didn't have to be Christian anymore. I showed them that I could do secular, and I was off to the races.
I love one of the bits you said, which I can definitely identify with. You said, there's no book for this. Yeah, and my version of that would be, you just got to do it with confidence, but sometimes it's that risk that you take. You're taking on a job and thinking, oh, I don't know, we'll figure it out. I mean, that's one of my kind of daily things. I don't know how to deal with this. Let's find it. Let's say yes and work it out later, because it's kind of fun and a bit scary. But I think in a society where we're very risk averse, let's always go for the safe ground. Sure. Sometimes being willing to take those risks, bad stuff can happen. Of course it can, but also really great stuff can happen too.
Yeah. That is a great observation. I was thinking about this a few days ago. No risk, no reward. And so many people, no matter where they are in the world, Andy, they want to stick to their town. They want to stick with the familiar. And so even when they do travel, it's, one of those brilliant weekends, in Barcelona, where you put on the suntan oil and all of that. or you don't venture very far away. Well, I'm more interested in, what are the flights necessary for me to get to Dakar or something like that. I love the overseas. And what I failed to mention is that also at 16, my mom came knocking on my high school classroom door. It was a science class, and I could see her face in the window of the door. There's a little window about that big, about that big, so that principal and other teachers could look in without opening the door, right? Just so you could peek in. And everybody looked up. There's somebody at the window, and I'm about 4 rows back, and I go, "What is my mom doing in my science class at high school? She never comes to high school." And so she walked in, asked the teacher to see me. Oh, Craig, your mom's here. Okay, go out to the hallway. And I'm 16, and I'm a couple of weeks away from summer time. It's June of 1972, a big year in history with the Olympics and terrorism, lots of stuff going on, not very good stuff. Excuse me. And I come out to the hallway, and she says, "Craig," I said, what are you doing here, Mom? "I came to get you." "Why?" "We need to get you passport photos." "Okay." A Japanese terrorism group shot up the Tel Aviv airport. They were in line, they were in cahoots or, conjunction with Yasser Arafat and all of them, this Japanese group, and they went in with submachine guns and shot up 26 people or something at the Tel Aviv airport a day or two before. We have lost a person on our Bible Lands trip that just canceled. We have 14, we need 15 for the 3 free trips for the family. We are paying your way to become number 15 and replace the person, the elderly person that canceled. Passport photos today, going to LA tomorrow. We were in San Diego, down south. To get a passport, we got to get you visas, we got to get you vaccinations. Boom, in 2.5 weeks, we did all that. And I was on a plane to Cairo. And one moment I'm in my science class, ready to have a nice, easy summer. And 2.5 weeks later, I'm on a plane to Amsterdam and then to Cairo. And I'm 16 and I went to Baghdad and Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and Damascus and Beirut, Rome, Athens, London. And then finally, after I think it was about 2.5 week trip or so, all the way back and conked out. And I go, wow, that was really a cool trip. It was a Bible Lands trip, so everything was taken care of. Didn't have to worry about the ticket to get into the museum. Just make sure that your heavy suitcase was out in front of your door by 6:15, kind of a thing, which we did. And so that whetted my appetite, my thirst, Andy, to see the world. And then that moved on in my 20s and 30s. Again, the more that I did international, the more I got called for it.
I can understand that in as much as changing from one environment. But again, you had that sort of gap in the summer, when you thought, oh, to take it easy for a little while. So there was an opportunity that's possible, and then something changes, and then you have this opportunity, and you have to seize them. And the risk, as we've said, sometimes the risk, it's real. It can go wrong. You can go for that job. You can move across the country, get a new job, and it doesn't happen. I've had that. We ended up homeless almost. It happens. But I've also taken risks where you think, if we hadn't taken that risk, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have met that person. And look at what God has done. So I love the fact that you've just got this adventurous spirit that sort of kicks in at age 16, and you're already traveling the world. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. I will tell you what I believe is the difference between a tourist and a traveler. I've thought about this a little bit. This is my version according to Craig. A tourist goes to a place and they're pretty much unaffected, Andy, by what they're seeing. They're having a nice holiday and a great vacation. That's wonderful. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. But they complain about, it rained that day, or this didn't happen. I really wanted to see that. And why can't I get a good slice of pizza in this town, Chinese food, or why can't I get a cheeseburger and chips?
Yeah.
And okay, that's a tourist. And then they come back and they're sort of unchanged by it all. I believe a traveler, which I'm a traveler, 161 countries. I'm a traveler. Okay. I go to a place and I see myself as white rice. I'm white enough to be white rice. Although being Scottish heritage, my wife actually says I'm pink. So there you go. But white rice, I see myself as white rice takes on the flavors of what's in the bowl with the rice. So when I go to a Barcelona or a Cairo or the Ganges River in Varanasi in India, I want to take on the flavor of the cultures and the languages, the people, the stories, the history, the adventures, the experiences, the people I meet, and all, those 7 or 8 things, and take on those flavors. And then I'm looking for the next adventure where I can gain more flavors. That's what I think is the difference. I want those cultures to change me and add to my experience, add to my heart, my mind, and my soul, and my experience as I go. You have a choice. You can be a tourist or you can be a traveler.
I want to move on to faith in just a moment, but I went to Spain. It was actually the 9/11. We were due to fly back 2 days after 9/11. So
Oh, wow.
that gives you a timeline. And we took my granddad. My nana died. I still want to go on the holiday we paid for. He said, so I want to go. And he's like 80s. And we're thinking, you're not going on your own, not now. So my wife and I took him. We could. God was really gracious to open up a date when we could physically leave. And when we were sat on the pool at a package holiday where you fly in, bus to the hotel, you go from the hotel room to the restaurant to the pool, back to your room, and that was it. And by 3 days, my wife and I we're losing the plot. But this is not holiday. We just want to get out. The local
Yeah.
paper he would buy was on the promenade 2 minutes away. It's thinking, this is Spain. So we hired a car. We drove up into the mountains where people did not speak English, and we had an absolute blast for a week, thinking, this is Spain.
Yeah.
People who
Yeah.
don't speak English, to me, great. I wanted to get into the culture, like you said. And everybody on the promenade, there are all these hotels and all these white British people, and you can tell where in the 2 weeks they are. Are they really white or are they tan, or they're about to go home? Oh, there's a red person. Okay, they've just arrived and they got sunburn, and you
That's
can
right.
spot it. But that was it, and that was the culture. We wanted to get into real Spain, away from the tourist part, to where there were other Spanish people who
Right.
didn't speak English, because only then I thought, we started to get into the actual culture of some of the fantastic Spanish people we met.
Right. Now, my wife, as we talked about before we started recording, her family is from Puerto Rico, but she is applying for her Spanish passport because her grandfather was as a baby, as a newborn, was a Spanish citizen until Puerto Rico came over to become Spanish-American War, became an American territory and such. So when she travels with me, she's brown. So when we travel through Europe, she has a real problem because she goes through immigration and they think she's Egyptian or Moroccan or Turkish. And I go sailing through Frankfurt Airport and immigration because I don't look like anything but Englander or a Scot or maybe German or Dutch. But when she always gets held up, Andy, they'll go, how long have you been here? I'm just on my way to Croatia. How do you have an American passport? I am an American. No, I want to see your stamps. I am an American. No, you're not. And they sometimes they have come close to putting her off in the other room where they interrogate you. And I've been in a couple of those places, and they look at you like you've committed a crime and you have to prove your innocence. I go, no, I haven't committed a crime. And in her case, it gets very annoying to her. It's like, here we go again. I'm a brown-skinned person and I'm a woman, and they want me in a hijab or something, and the veil and all of that. And like I've just come out of the mosque, and I'm from Puerto Rico. Would you knock it off? So that she runs into these stereotypes all the time, and there's just nothing. You got to just be good natured. In her case, have to be good natured. If you get really irked about it, it will drive you crazy. And I know sometimes it's like, would you stop? I'm American. I've got brown skin. Leave me alone.
But this is the thing about perceptions, though, isn't it? We can see something and we make that assumption. And I don't like being put in a box. And the reason is I rarely fit in a box. And I think, it's good not to fit in a box, but there are occasions like going through passport control of, I just wish we could just look like everybody else and just get through.
Right,
But hey, that's
right.
part of the diversity of life. And it creates interesting things in the passport office, but it's part of life, isn't it? Like you say, you have to go with it eventually. You're either going to get really angry by it or you just have to go with it.
Sometimes I will. I rarely ever say this. So Andy, congratulations. We're we're mixing it up here. There are times that I will go into Ireland, Northern Ireland, or Scotland, and I don't want everyone saying, "Oh, you're from America. What part?" In fact, I don't say if I'm asked that I'm American. I just say I'm from California. I cut to two questions down the line that save the trouble. They're always fascinated by that because their perception, I'm a native Californian. My parents are natives. Our kids are natives. My wife is actually Californian Puerto Rican. Anyway, so if I'm in Northern Ireland, I'll just slip into a Liam Neeson accent and I'll say, "Oh, could I get a proper cup of tea, please? That would be wonderful if you could do that for me." I just think that's wonderful. Which way? What are the? It's my first time here in Belfast. What's the best place for fish and chips? Can you point me a direction?
Very
And
good.
I just figured I'll do that, and I don't have to tell everyone I'm from California. Now I get caught sometimes because I'll say truck when I'm supposed to say lorry. The little words. And in Scotland, the Scots accent, Craig's much different there. Oh, who do you think you are? Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy, man. That's a little bit tougher one for me. I have to think of some friends that are Scots and then think, how would they speak? And I'm not as good at that one, but I'm working on it.
Hey, it's good to have goals in life, and speaking in order to just have, I guess, less
Yeah.
questions is a good thing. Let's move on to faith, because Christians in
Sure.
media, the whole point of the day was people who are of faith, of the Christian faith, who are in media in some way,
Yeah.
gather together. Now,
Yeah.
we had it's one of the highlights of my last year. I've got to be honest, because there were so many different types of people, from journalists, directors. We were in radio, and there was a massive multitude. Folk who work from Sky, who
Mhm.
work in an office or on the back end of a camera, and it was just great to have such a massive diversity of people in media. And I had this conversation with Lani when I was chatting about it. I love that Christians in media is not Christians in digital media, but media, which is a brilliantly
Sure.
broad term. So,
Yeah.
what made what not what forced you, but what got you to the Christians in Media conference? How come you found that?
I'm a trustee of Christians in Media UK. So I'm on the board of Christians in Media UK. I'm a board member. So now I am the only board member that lives outside of England. I live in northern France by choice because this is our base, Rebecca and I, to travel the world and teach media. Africa, Asia. We just came back from Sri Lanka and such. So we get around. So I'm the only one that is outside of England. I take the Eurostar, wonderful way to get around. No airports for that one. So I get to UK rather easily. So that's why I was there. I didn't have to be there, Andy, but as a trustee, I thought it was just, the right thing to do to show up for the annual conference. And I met some wonderful people, including you and three or four other people. We exchanged contact information. I've been in touch with them as well. So, you like we were talking about, you got to get out of the familiar.
Mm.
And for some people, well, look at you. You had to go all the way to on Friday or the day before, which was a Thursday. You had to get down. Are you based in London? Where are you guys based?
We're based in northeast of England,
Okay.
so quite it's about 5 hours away by car.
Yeah, Newcastle, where or
Not
where?
quite that far, but it's Hull.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you would have had to come in most likely the day before,
Yeah.
because you had to set up all your gear and such. Well, you got out of the familiar to do that, and you probably went home on Sunday. Did you go home on Sunday?
No, we drove straight back on the Friday night. Actually, we went straight home.
Ooh, that's a long 24 hours, my friend.
Yeah.
Long 20 or 30 hours, whatever it might be. But that's getting out of the familiar. You know what? You talked about something. I'll get back to faith in just a second. I promise not to go down a rabbit hole here.
We like
Uh,
those.
yeah. Well, you talked about Um, going to Spain and such. I remember I had a shoot I needed to do in Oslo, Norway, years ago for the great evangelist Reinhard Bonnke, who was a famous German evangelist that worked in Africa for decades. And I was doing a pickup shoot in Norway because they had done a literature program there. So, hey, go interview people. So I'm out on the edge of Oslo, and I'm done with my shoot for the day, and there's a light rain coming down, and I'm sort of stuck at the hotel, and I can order a pizza like I did the night before and hang out at a hotel in a suburban area where there's just no culture whatsoever. I said, no, I may never get to Oslo again. It's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm done for the day with the shoot based on schedule. Why don't I walk down to the tram? And even if I make mistakes, I'm going to take myself into downtown Oslo and have a night out, walk around the streets. I may never get to Oslo again. And I did that, had a wonderful time, had sushi in Oslo. I figure if anybody knows fish, the Norwegians are probably pretty good at it, as good as the Japanese and such. Walked around, got back on the train as it was getting dark. It was summertime. And I never got back to Oslo again in my life. And I thought, good, I kicked myself in the rear end, got out of the hotel room, went off to the tram, which was about a 10-minute walk or 7-minute walk to get to it, got on an unfamiliar tram, saw Oslo and came back. Okay, back to get out of your comfort zone. Faith. I do, like you, Andy, like the idea that Christians in Media, that the Engage conference wasn't just Sky Television or Sky Radio. Media can be people working in advertising or print these days, or authors. I met a couple of people that were authors of books that came up after our artificial intelligence AI panel, and kind of we use the term buttonholed me, like I'm going to go talk to that guy. So I had like 3 people like talking to me, and it could be radio, it could be movies, which is a hard industry to get into, difficult industry. There's so much competition. Oh, there's tons of podcasts now. There are millions of podcasts. We're doing one right now, radio and podcasting. So I'm glad that it's an expansive list. It could be people that are actors. They're just as welcome to a media conference as anybody else. You don't have to be a television director like I am, or a documentary filmmaker. So I'm glad it's a wide, the boundaries are really far away from each other. I like that.
I like that a lot, it just makes it interesting. I'll tell you the one comment I heard quite a few times. Either it was, I don't think we did it on air, but it was always the off-air conversation or other chats. People said, I thought I was coming to a networking event, which I suppose in many ways it was. Different people in a room. You're going to say hello. Who are you? What can you do? Can we work together?
Yeah.
The one thing that I thought, that's beautiful. It doesn't feel like networking event. It feels like church. With people who I may never get to worship with again or speak with again, because they're people coming from all these different places. Are you free on a Friday in London to the West of London? Not everybody will be free on that date next year. So I loved the fact that the number of people I spoke to said, it doesn't feel like a networking event or another thing. It just feels like church. And I liked that because that's exactly how I felt about the day.
Yeah. I will also tell you that as we did Engage 2024 at St. Martin in the Field Church right across from Trafalgar Square. I went, oh, yeah, now that's a church, because they even do concerts. I have recordings of Handel's Messiah from St. Martin in the Fields Church that I love. The previous year, 2024, we had it at the church, and I think we had it on a Wednesday. It was Wednesday or a Thursday, one of those 2 days. And as we were forming and scheduling this year, 2025, we kicked up the idea, why don't we do it on a Friday? Because most people, if they say they're going to go to a conference, they can say to their boss, hey, there's a conference on Friday, and I'm not going to miss any of the work week that way. I'll still put in my 4 days and such. And so the Friday worked out pretty well. For all of that. And regarding the networking part, I think the networking did happen during coffee hour
Hmm.
and at lunch, and we probably could have thrown in an extra half hour to that, but we ended at 4 because people, some people. Oh, I had a person I invited that flew in that morning from Scotland to Heathrow that morning, a couple Fridays ago, went to the conference and flew back to Glasgow the same night. So that's a long day too, in the grand scheme of things. So we cut it a little bit early so that if people needed to go somewhere, get home and such, or go out on a Friday night, which is fine too, they could do it.
I know for me, we drove back, but I drove big trucks for 20 years. So it's the one thing I can bring to being in a radio that I think, "Do you know what? I don't mind a 5 hour drive. I used to do 10 hours a day, and that was a normal day."
Oh
So
yeah.
it's hard work. We've got a decent car, which helps a lot. But yeah, we can do that. But I just loved the fact that there were so many different people from so many different industries. Um, and yet we were all gathered with a single purpose of,
Sure.
yeah, our day
Yeah.
job. Yeah, we all work in media somehow,
Right.
authors, podcasters, radio, TV. But you know what? We all have a love of Jesus Christ, and that sort of
Right.
that's the reason why we're there. When did faith for you become something more than just Christianity might be a good thing? When did it become a personal thing for you?
Well, I'm a preacher's kid, but that doesn't make you a Christian. But I've been, I grew up for the first 10 years of my life on the front row of my dad's church. And then I finally graduated to row 3. But I didn't get off row 3 until probably I was 14 or 15. Anyway, when faith, I'll say it a different way. Um, when you travel the world like I did and you're shooting other religions, Hinduism, Islam, Hindu rituals. I've shot a lot of voodoo ceremonies. I've shot 5 or 6 voodoo ceremonies, 3 in Africa, 2 in the Caribbean, including Haiti. And you see demonic possessions, demonic spirits in all of these places. And then finally, believe it or not, Los Angeles, California. I didn't know you could find voodoo, but somebody sent me on an assignment. I go, this is only 5 minutes from my apartment. I can't believe voodoo is just down the street and take a right turn. It literally was that close. You begin, like I did, Andy, to reevaluate your own faith and your Christianity and your love of God. And when you see other people searching as hard as they can for meaning, and they're doing it through false religions and cults as well, and they're not finding it, um, or they just don't know that Jesus Christ died for their sins and they're lost in their sins, which is quite a few billion people in this world, then you say, yeah, either Jesus Christ is the real thing or he's not. Jesus Christ is either the way, the truth, and the life, or he's not. I like what C.S. Lewis said, the great writer. And you know what? A Lion, Witch, in the Wardrobe just turned 75 years this week. It was published 75 years ago this week by C.S. Lewis,
That's a good book.
the professor, the famous professor and apologist for Christianity. Um, I like what C.S. Lewis says. He proposed that either Jesus Christ was a liar, that everything he talked about, everything that he taught was a lie. It was all made up. Or 2, he's a lunatic. He's a crazy man. He was so crazy that they were fake miracles. And he talked himself, he talked so much that they nailed him to the Roman Empire and the Sanhedrin got so mad at him, they nailed him to a tree and killed him. He was that crazy. A liar, a lunatic, or the last, which is the best, eternally the best. He's a Lord. He's Lord and Savior. Yeah, he's Lord and Savior, and you can trust him. He's the I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father except by me. I am the door, and the door is narrow. The road is narrow, but the highway is wide. I'm the road. Yeah. So in all of that, my faith deepened and deepened as I began to travel, explore other religions, talk to other. I have friends that are Hindu. I have friends that are Muslims as well. And I think, by the way, anyone listening and watching Andy and I I think Andy would agree with this. I think you need to get uh, a buffet of friends that are not just all Christians in your town, in your city. Don't just always hang out with Christians. You need that for Bible study, fellowship, communication, connection, and such, and your church. But it's good to make friends with some Muslims, some Hindus, get to know their life. How is anyone going to know you're a Christian if they don't know you at all?
Yeah.
And how are you going to understand where they're coming from if you don't have that talk over a cup of tea or a pot of tea? That's what I would say.
I would agree. One of my favorite times of life, 16 to 18 years old. In the UK, we call that A levels. It's pre-university, sort of the end of high school, I guess.
What is it called again?
It's A levels. So it's 16 to 18.
A level,
A
sure.
levels.
Okay.
It's the qualifications you need if you want to go to university, Oxford, Cambridge, that sort of thing. And I did Christian theology, and what was fascinating was I was at a Church of England secondary school. So what's that, 11 to 15? And then we had a sixth form, which sort of attaches on the end. That was quite rare. Church of England for little children, yeah. Secondary school, quite rare. Literally across the road was a Roman Catholic secondary school. So because it was quite good, we joined our sixth forms together. So they were Catholics and they were, in theory, Anglicans at this sixth form. And we were studying Christian theology. We had some brilliant teachers, but we also had a Muslim. We had all these different denominations within the UK. So we had Methodists, Anglicans, there were Baptists. There was myself and another person who said, well, we go to a Baptist church, but we don't identify as Baptist. We identify as Christian. So it was this amazing kind of mash of really interesting people. Yeah. And the favorite moments were the debates. They were the conversations about life and faith. Communion. We studied communion, Eucharist, the Holy Sacrament, depending on what you want to call it. We studied that for like 6 months. And it was fascinating.
You studied it for 6 months? That's wonderful.
It was really good. But we had a Muslim in the room. And he was in the conversations, and it was really interesting because he brings a whole different perspective. We were both respectful of each other's, cultures and all the rest of it. He was very much an English guy. Islam was his religion as his family, and he was very much practicing Islam. But he was fascinating conversations because it's a bit like that bit of scripture, iron sharpens iron. Well, it does. Well, you bring in other religions, it's good because it's going to do one or two things. It's going to make you think like C.S. Lewis. Nah, it's not real. It's fake. It's nice. It might be good moral code, as Brother Andrew from Open Doors said, when he realized either God is a good moral code or he's King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And he realized it was that one. And I think in the same way, when I studied that for 2 years, we went through all these different modules of study, you either think, this Christianity thing, I've been a Christian for about 10 years by that point, either it's good or it's really good. And there's no kind of middle ground in my own mind and heart. And what those 2 years did for me was really cement, concrete, harden, toughen the foundations of, no, this really is absolutely real. And I absolutely do believe that Jesus Christ died on a cross and rose again after 3 days. And part of that ability to state that with such confidence came from spending time with people who were, I'm an atheist, I'm an agnostic, I'm a Muslim. They actually helped form my faith because they made me question what I knew, but I didn't know why I knew that, if that makes sense. And it made me dig deeper into where does faith really fit into my heart, into my life? Is it a nice peripheral thing on a Sunday morning? Well, yeah, it can be. You can feel quite good in a church, but it needs to be more than that. And I guess that's a similar experience to yourself, where you were brought up as a pastor's kid, you were brought up in church, you could sing the songs, you probably knew lots of the Bible. And at some point that then sinks into your heart and you have to make a choice, don't you? Am I going to let it sink really inside me? Is it going to change how I think, how I live, how I breathe, or is it just a nice code? And I think that decision, I'm glad I did. But those 2 years at school, they were so important.
Cool. Very, very good. You made me think of the scripture that I believe it was the Apostle Paul that says, we all work out our salvation. I was, and you have been, we were working out our salvation. And to be honest with you, I think until Jesus comes or I pass away or you pass away, we're always working out our salvation. I don't think I've ever said this. I think that our salvation is very much like a mosaic, like all these mosaic tiles, these little bits that make on their own may not make sense, but when you put them together and then you stand back and look at them, you go, ah, there's a pattern here. And I've been to enough mosques and enough places across this world that you stand back and you see the mosaics on the side of a temple, or the art, mosaic art, which can be absolutely, and these are, there's a sermon coming on here. In order to make mosaics, a lot of times you have to use broken pieces.
Yes.
And when they're broken pieces on their own, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a broken piece. But when you put them together and stand back and look at them, you see that there was a pattern, there was an art. And that's what God does with our lives. He takes the broken pieces and makes it into a divine mosaic art. That's cool. I like that.
I was about to say what you said about the broken pieces. We like life to be simple and easy. Every single one of us. We don't go out of our way for really hard times. No one thinks,
Right.
"Hey, let's go through some misery." That's not your heart as you get older.
Yes, I'll take another cup of misery today.
Exactly. We go through life thinking, "Can we have it easier? A bit more money would make that be better." Or if I can get that health part sorted, then I can do this.
Yeah.
And the thing is, those broken pieces of our life, as you said very beautifully in that mosaic, those broken pieces make up a really beautiful picture, but it takes time, a little bit of wisdom and patience, stepping
Right.
back, looking through God's eyes to
Yeah.
see it his way. Because if I had more money, better health, more kids, I don't know, whatever your thing is that you're struggling with right now, do you know what? The fact you haven't got that means you have to rely upon God
Yeah.
more, and that's more
Yeah.
precious.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were talking about God working in our lives that He's the divine artist.
Yeah.
He's the divine artist that He takes, especially if we let Him. Say,
Yes.
Lord, Lord, yeah, trust and obey. Lord, here are the broken pieces of my life. I'll give you an analogy. The woman at the well. Woman at the well. Look at the broken pieces of her life. And Jesus came along, and I see all the broken pieces, marriages, and you're the guy, the man you're with now is not even your husband. And in his version of the analogy, I have water you don't even know that's different than Jacob's well that I'm sitting at in the midday sun. Yeah, there's I got thank you, Andy. I've got like 3 sermons out of this. So afterwards I'll just write them all down. Okay.
No, that's fine. If I can inspire other people, hey, that works for me. Let's just come back to what you're doing today. You've mentioned various books. That's obviously been a part of your life for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Writing down in a. Actually, I'll tell you why I like writing. I've written a few books. I like the idea of forming something that other people can read in such a way that it might make a difference to their life. That's the part of writing that I absolutely adore. I don't always write grammatically perfectly, which drives my middle son nuts, because I write in order that people can read, mostly
Right.
grammatically correct, but sometimes a little bit of license helps. Why do you enjoy writing? What is it? What's your passion behind that?
Well, I've been a writer since I was 16 when I won that award.
Yeah.
And I started out as a writer at PTL Television, and I wrote scripts. I had to write my own promos. And I don't think anybody even asked to approve them. I think I just wrote them, and they go, "Hey, can you produce it as well?" Sure. And a month after I was there, I became a producer, and I'm 21 years of age. And just who let me do this, because they didn't have enough people to write and produce in the department. It was a department of 2 people. I'm doing network promos. I'm 21, and nobody was complaining. I said, okay, I'll just keep doing them. But I've been a writer. I've always been a writer, but I really got down to writing my first book, Commando Tactics, Digital Filmmakers, when about 2011. And I turned what was my master's thesis into a book. And then I did a doctoral dissertation on Scottish film. That's too long of a great Scottish director named Alexander McKendrick. Alexander McKendrick. So I wrote a scholarly book. It was out of my dissertation. A German group said, "Hey, we want to publish it." Okay, publish it. And then I've been trying to write Night Train to Cairo since 2013. So 12 years? Yeah, 12, 13 years. And I would put it down and wouldn't come back to it for 3 or 4 years. Okay, but I had all my notes, I had all my scribblings, so to speak. They were all in folders in the night train folder. And then last May, I said, I pretty much have the summer free. People had rescheduled different workshops and seminars to later times. I go, I don't want to just sit here and watch TV or hang out on my phone. I think you just bear down and write this thing. And I started it in May and I finished in September. I would do 3 or 4 hours in the morning, pretty much, and write it, and then come back and rewrite. The trick to writing, anyone listening, the trick to writing to me is be organized, have a good, theme for your book, of course. But the real trick is to rewrite. Keep rewriting. It's like sifting, sift it, sift it, sift it. Mario Puzo, who wrote The Godfather, Mario Puzo, I said the key to writing is rewriting. Once you get it down in your first draft, keep rewriting. I probably had 6, 7 drafts per chapter. Oh, that's not quite right. I need to fix that. Oh, I've come across some other information. And so I wrote my travel adventures. I've been to some dangerous places, Andy. I've been to Iraq War. I've been to civil unrest in El Salvador. In Turkey, there were where they go protests where got tear gassed. Lines in Russia that were protesting. Lots of stuff. And here's something we didn't talk about. I know we're talking about writing. You didn't talk. The Lord has protected me in some very difficult places. Even the voodoo sanctuary I walked into in Haiti, filled with voodoo and demonic possessions. I prayed outside that sanctuary. It's called a peristyle. I said, Lord Jesus, I'm about to go in there. I'm a professional. I'm going to do my job. This is a secular shoot. I'm going to be a professional. Enjoy doing the shoot. But I am not going to be engaged in voodoo. And dear Jesus, Holy Spirit, blood of Jesus, protect me from all harm. Amen. And went in and not a thing happened to me and came away with the footage. I think that we won't know until we get to heaven, Andy, how much the Holy Spirit and the blood of Christ has protected us in our life's journey. And we don't even know it because things were happening behind the scenes in the spirit world that we're not aware of. Oh, I know it for sure. We're gonna get to heaven and Jesus is gonna say, remember that time that you were late? Well, you were gonna be in a car accident if you didn't, or whatever of 1,000 possibilities that can happen in our lives. Jesus is watching over us. And man, he's really taking care of me.
Amen to that. I need to wrap this up, but if you look across your life, you've done some amazing places, been to some amazing places, amazing stamps in your passport, really. Where have you seen God's the most transformative in your own heart and life?
Well, I'm going to give it a different way. I've covered crusades before. Reinhard Bonnke, Billy Graham, and some really wonderful, wonderful evangelists. They're the real deal. They're not prosperity preachers. They're not flying on private jets and asking you with this cloth, if you send in your money of 39 pounds, this cloth and this vial of holy water from the Jerusalem is going to change your life. I guarantee it. I would say seeing the gospel being preached across the world, in big crusades and in little churches where nobody even knows the pastor. But whether large or small, I've seen genuine leaders and preachers and ministers, pastors. I've spent time with dedicated missionaries that nobody knows about that are working in obscurity, Andy, in difficult places. I remember a missionary in the country of Chad that would go every Friday, and he would dress in Arab, wardrobe, and he would go to the back of the mosque during noon prayers, at the very last row, the back wall, and he would just get on his knees. And he wouldn't pray like them, Andy, but he would just be praying in his Christian way, in his believing way, for every single person that was going through the Muslim day of prayer at noon on Friday, the big prayer. And nobody knows him. Nobody knew who he was. But what a great guy, and people like that. I've seen genuine faith. Maybe that's the core of the answer of your asking. I have seen the core of faith of real, genuine people who lead dedicated lives that nobody knows about, but Jesus does. And it could well be that their crown in heaven is going to be bigger than the famous people.
I love that. If people wanted to connect with you, I mean, obviously you've got different books. Night Train to Cairo is one, Through the Wire is another. Have you got a website where this is all brought together?
Yes, I have two. The main one for Christians would be matchstickmedia.org. Matchstick, just like a matchstick to light a candle. Matchstickmedia.org. Everything's there, our schedule. There's even a book page as well. My wife has written a book on exorcism that was happening in her family and demonic spirits called Breaking the Altar. It's a short read. I think it's only 130 pages. You could read it in an hour or two. Matchstickmedia.org. You can reach me at Craig at matchstickmedia.org. Craig, Craig. In Scotland, it's Craig, but in the American version, it's Craig. And my professional site as a director is craigforrest.com. craigforrest.com. Forrest with two R's. Good Scots way to spell it. Almost never see somebody with one R. I mean, 1 out of 500 times. And it's usually because the person taking down their name at the shipyard wrote it wrong, kind of a thing on the ledger and such. That's where you can find me. But then all of my social media accounts, usually at Craig D. Forrest. Instagram I love. TikTok is a little bit different one, but you can find me there. And Facebook, Craig D. Forrest. I'll pop up there. I love Instagram the best and the most. But if you follow me, I promise to follow you.
Fair enough. Craig, thank you. It's been a pleasure and delight to actually have a slightly longer interview because we touched base. I just thought we've got to draw this out a little bit more.
That's fine.
So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Andy. Thank you. And bless everybody that's been listening.